I really find on my Twitter like random. Oh, I got to my design. No, fun. Like this is like oh yeah, I feel like do you like work solo or would you rather think like anything? How do people want? Can you work solo? Yeah, I can work solo. I'm good on. But I need to work solo. I'll yeah, my if you don't want to then you have you don't mic down my mouth. It's like this cold glory. That's why I went to a front of mine. Then I go to golf.
Oh, can someone please?
Please,
Please.
Oh, you bastard.
Right.
Is it on? I heard a beat. I did hear a beat.
There's a blue flashing lights. They help visualize.
Is that music? Yeah.
It's got a string of mistakes. Should I think actually look
All right.
I haven't compared this back.
Should have a microphone. All right. Thanks a lot for coming to another GDG. It's good to have you all here again. We're going to have a quick presentation on the Made by Google reveal that was done last week Tuesday. Actually, can I get a hands up for who actually woke up? Nice, yeah.
What?
All right. Yeah, so there was.
Who didn't get here because they didn't like it?
There was, for those of you who don't know, there was a really big event by Google where they unveiled a whole bunch of hardware. Well, actually, let's not spoil the surprises. There were really exciting announcements, and it gives you an idea of the direction that Google is going to be heading in the next sort of few years. So let's get started. There's a whole bunch of hardware reveals. So first off, this is a big indication from Google that they're going to be manufacturing their own hardware and they're going to be optimizing their software to target that hardware. So they're trying to take more control over the entire platform, which is a big issue because it's definitely something that they've been lacking in. So they started off the presentation speaking of the future of Google. So the hardware was just one part of it, but the major part that they focused on was not data centers, but what is run in the data centers, i.e. AI. Recently, and certainly going forward, Google is putting a huge emphasis on AI. This is just a few examples. A knowledge graph, which is gigantic, which is powered by the searches and all the information that's available on Google search. I think they were talking about I can't remember off the top of my head, an enormous amount of data points that they can use to feed these AI systems, which will eventually be useful to the users. There's natural language processing, which is basically understanding speech, as well as, of course, speech synthesis. So they're putting a lot of effort into both of these areas because voice is a huge part of making technology easy to interact with. I was taking a look at some of the papers that were published, and Google already has 600 papers published to their name on these topics of AI and language processing, knowledge graphs. So it gives you an idea of Google isn't just using patents for swiping little toggle buttons on screen. They're actually doing research in these fields. There's translation. If you guys haven't checked out the translation app, it's amazing. My partner actually just went over to French Polynesia, doesn't speak a word of French, but with this app, she can communicate with locals. Like, just with this app, the locals will speak to the app in a foreign language, and it'll real-time translate back to English so that she can understand and she can manage a project. So that's incredible. Like the advances in translation that have been made in just recently. Voice recognition again made huge improvements, and it's only going to improve with the hardware they unveiled. Image recognition again, like they've made big improvements there as well. So Google Assistant is the main entryway into a lot of this AI. It was recently unveiled with Allo, which is that app you see there. On the left side, you've got the new version of Android 7.1, which I'll talk about later. Which they've renamed the Now on Tap to Screen Search, I believe. It's been renamed, which probably makes a lot more sense. Not quite as catchy, but so you can now you will be able to access the Google Assistant through the Screen Search feature. So it'll be very readily accessible. As I said, Allo, which was released last month, you can access the Google Assistant through it. So it's trying to become more useful in your casual conversations, suggesting where you could do things or providing you information that like directly into your conversation with friends. The other two I'll talk about in a moment. They're future products. So this is probably what you're all really curious about, the Google Pixel phone. So long Nexus, Pixel is the future. You've got two phones. They're actually slightly different sizes, even though those are the same phone. You've got two colors that are going to be available, maybe more in the future, depending on exclusivity and probably success. Yeah, so the third one, the blue one, was... Sorry, what was it called? Very blue.
Really good.
Really blue, thanks. Really blue is...
Very silver, really blue.
Quite black. So the really blue is only available for Verizon at the moment, but they maybe hopefully will bring them to the general public. Let's get onto the specs. There's two variants. There are two variants. They've practically got the exact same hardware. The major differences are the screen size of 5 inches and 5.5 inches, the resolution, and the battery capacity of each phone. If you want a phone that'll last a while, probably go with a bigger phone. If you want something that's slightly more pocketable, you can go with the small phone. Also, if you want something for VR, which we'll get to in a moment, you probably want the bigger phone with the higher screen pixel density. Interestingly, you'll note that it only comes in 32 or 128 gigabyte storage options. So this is beginning. It starts giving you an idea that this is a premium device. I don't think I've got any pricing here because it's not really appropriate to New Zealand, but the pricing starts at $650 US. So these are premium devices with premium price tags. But I'd argue they're worth it. Didn't say that.
You keep waiting. The next phone came out.
So during the presentation, they made a huge focus on the quality of the camera. Not only for still imagery, we've got very large pixels. It's 12 megapixel camera, which is a good compromise between a large resolution image and large pixels for gathering a lot of light. But one of the main things that really has wowed a lot of people, and maybe later on we can show a video of the image stabilization, is the stabilization software that they've implemented into the video app or video hardware. It's amazing. It needs to be seen to be believed. So I'll bring that up a bit later. The size, so that you guys have an idea of the size of these phones. The right-hand-most device is the Pixel. So you can see it's slightly smaller than the Galaxy S7, which has been very popular. So therefore, surely the Pixel will also be very popular. Just on the leftmost side, you've got the Nexus P, well, LG, but then the Nexus P, 6P, and then the Pixel XL. So you can see that it's slightly smaller than the 6P, and the 6P is actually a huge phone. And then two over, you've got the 5X, and you can see that it's kind of in between the two. Basically, what I'm getting at is, if you want a big phone, that is a big phone. It's got a big screen, it's nice. But if you want a small phone, which a lot of people have been asking for, with flagship specs, the Pixel is the phone for you. You want the eyeglass phone. Contact. Yeah. That's for next year. Well, we'll see. Oh, spoiler alert. So another thing that they pushed hard is unlimited photo and video storage. And this is at full resolution. So you don't have the limitations that most Google Photos users have of, I think it's 6 megapixels. So it's full resolution, 4 times as many pixels you can store. Which is fantastic. You just upload all your photos and you're done. They obviously don't count towards your Google Drive storage size, so that's great. Oh, fantastic. For all of you, actually none of you have iPhones, so this won't be relevant, but I'm sure you all know people that have iPhones. So they've introduced this great new feature where you can plug in your old phone directly into your new Pixel device, transfer all your information. You can then throw your old device into the bin and immediately become a overjoyed, successful black businessman. So this is another big reveal that they had. A lot of people were, curious as to what the Google Daydream headset was going to be, and this is what Google has surprised us with. It looks fantastic. It's very interesting how they've approached the front face, which allows different sized headsets, phones to be used for the headset, which means it'll be widely available with phones that come out in the future, which are Daydream ready. But one of the major things that I would like to note is that a lot of people say that the Oculus Rift is the most comfortable headset. And this device takes a lot of cues from that. So odds are it's going to be very comfortable, which is important during VR experiences. It's flexible, it looks great. I'm really keen to try out that Daydream controller, but it's a great start. And for true, it's good for your glasses, which is really important for a lot of people. It'll be, if you can get yourself sorted, in the US, if you order it from if you order a Pixel device from the US, you'll get a free Daydream headset, but only if you pre-order. So get onto it if you really want it. The other major piece of hardware that they announced was Google Home, and you'll notice that this is one of the silhouettes that was missing at the Google Assistant screen. So Google Home is supposed to bring Assistant into your home. It's meant to make it very easy for you to interact with Google and get all the information that you want and have in your account, like all your contact details, all your calendar, appointments, music, all that kind of stuff. And it connects also up to, I think that's the next screen. Yeah, features. It connects up to a whole bunch of existing home automation services and products. So you can use this as a central hub for all these products. Or if you don't have them in your home, then this is a great excuse to, start, getting a more techie home. But it's fantastic. I know a couple of people that have like smart lights and like everyone's got a Chromecast and all these things. So it's a great product. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.
We're gonna go, guys.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
But it's brand new, so there's a lot of potential in it. Just as with Google Assistant, it's a new product. It does what it does well, but there's a lot of potential to improve. So what you're getting is not only what it's got, but the potential for the future. And you can be absolutely certain that Google's going to spend a lot of time on improving these products. I don't think that there's a release date for this yet. I'm not sure. Can't order it. November? Okay. So we'll talk about that when we get it later this year, hopefully. Another really interesting product that they announced was Google Wi-Fi. So the idea behind Google Wi-Fi is to make Wi-Fi easy. It does a bunch of things. It doesn't do a lot, but what it does really well. It optimizes the Wi-Fi channels that your devices are connected to improve connectivity and speed.
And angles as well.
And
so it's got
angles.
a number of antenna and increase the power and so forth. It's similar to OnHub, except for the making the hardware.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So it's got all the advantages of OnHub, and I believe all the features are coming to OnHub, at least the features that the hardware supports. But yeah, if you've got a home that, or if you're into these kinds of things, you can do things like prioritize devices for better performance, which is actually something I'm quite keen on trying out, and a bunch of other features as well, like easily share your Wi-Fi password. Being like, just give me a device password. So yeah, that's some great features in there. Finally, there's the Chromecast Ultra. There's not really a hell of a lot to be said about it. If you're into 4K video, if you've got a television that has 4K, there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't have a 4K device. Yeah. So yeah, this is a great step up from the standard Chromecast, and additionally it has Ethernet support. So if you've ever had spotty connectivity, you can either plug it into Ethernet or get a Google Wi-Fi hub. You've got options. The last thing that was talked about were SDKs for integration with Google Assistant. There's not a lot of information available about them yet. We'll let you know when there is, which apparently is going to be in December, maybe releasing next year, from my understanding. But basically allow third-party developers to integrate these so-called actions, whether they're direct actions or conversational actions, into the existing Google Assistant, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for a while. And this, so you'll be able to input these direct actions or conversation actions. You can imagine the difference between one of them is like, direct action is like, turn on the lights. And a conversational action will be, order a taxi. And then the response will be, where do you want to go to? So you'll reply, I want to go to work. And so that's the kind of conversational action that they're going to be defining, or allow third-party developers to define. Additionally, they're also going to release an SDK for manufacturers to integrate the Google Assistant into their own products. So definitely looking forward to seeing what comes out of that. Questions? You all want Pixel devices? Well, if you look under your chair, you'll notice. Let's cut. Yeah. Yeah, you can have an image. You can dream about it. You can daydream about it. Oh, nice. Yeah. We'll be talking about all these things later on as they're announced. We'll have them, as the pixels come in, we'll have them on display. Same for all the other hardware, so you can try them out. Yeah. Sponsors. Do you want to sponsor us? Sweet. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's it. On to the next talk.
Aha. One of these ways will work. And now it's here. Got it. And I can actually see. Yeah. Alright, we're back. Hi everyone, my name is Paul Sanderson, and it says up here on the slide. That's my Twitter handle. So before I start, I apologise for any spelling mistakes and grammatical problems that are in this version, and there will be lots because I code not spell. So today I'm here to talk to you about Dart. It seems to have a bit of hype behind it these days, especially in the last maybe 3 or 4 months. I've been using it from about 2012, when it was actually at milestone 2, at the end of 2012 coming into milestone 3. The reason for that is let's give some background. I was a ActionScript 3 Wix developer for
5 years. And basically what happened, Apple killed Flash, and I was looking around. At this time I lived in New Zealand. And I got the stark introduction to MillTools and jQuery. And to be honest with you, I was looking around and here's the web is front end stuff, it's totally screwed. I just come from this magical place where we could do components, lots of memory optimization, make amazing, massive financial applications, and now I'm struggling away with DOM manipulation and ridiculous non-scope, lexical scoped bollocks. So I found Dart, and it pretty much changed my life in that respect. So that's about me. I'm basically a full stack dev. I do Dart, JS, ES6, TypeScript, blah, 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 CSS, PHP, Python, C++, Sharp. I do a range of things, from basically front end to back end to massive multi-install, touch systems, engineering stuff, fabrication as well. So I built all the stuff for how technical store. I think I got like 5 or 10 stream. I'm trying to get a couple of jobs for Google Germany. They're popping up as well. Interactive stuff. So I started using that, like I say, in Milestone 2. But just so give some background, I've also got some experience with other things. So I just finished up doing 6 months building EG2 TypeScript app, basically through all the change and turmoil that's just been with that. I was wrapping a testing framework around existing applications to rolled out at a company called Books. And before that, I was working at Clearpoint, working on Winyard, actually, for Winyard. We're doing the full year of ES6, EG1, JSPN, Angular, Babel. We had 11 front-end devs all working on the same project at the same time. It was pretty intense, to say the least. So, yeah, to be honest with you, if I could have used Dart and all those other things. So what's Dart's purpose? It's basically a solid foundation of libraries and tools. It makes common programming type languages. And it's designed to be stable and fragmented. I'd just like to highlight the stability part. I'll show you a bit later on. So I got an application that I wrote in 2013. I've also got a product with File Cannon that I built in Angular 1 and Angular 2 as well. And whenever I boot that application up, whenever I've got to make hotfix on it, there's always like a 50-50 chance that something's broken or I have to get it going or something like that. But the Dart application that I wrote, still runs out of the box, which is really nice. So short history about Dart. So basically Dart preview arrives and instantly decides to get on arrival and it writes it off as soon as it comes through the door. Doug Crockford, I don't know if you know him, he's basically considered, I guess, the father of JavaScript. He kind of promoted basically the rise of it and animations were his name, but basically 2012 he wrote an article and he said, if I could take everything good about JavaScript and make a language out of it, it wouldn't be Dart. And so I started using it. So in 2013, basically Dart, the VM, introduced isolates, Node.js and stuff is still running on isolates. So basically out of the box we can take a multi-core machine running on servers. Dart 1.0 is released. The Dart VM 2014 is now faster than Google V8 Node.js. That's because it's actually made by the same people who made Google V8. And I think currently it's about 2 to 3 times faster than V8. Dart is accepted by the ECMA, so it's now a accepted programming language. Dart basically speaks with Arduino, which is this first kind of foray into embedded applications. The release is Fletch, and Flutter, Chrome, and then Chrome decides not to interact with VM. So the big plan with Dart all the time was that the virtual machine that Dart runs on, called Dart VM, surprisingly innovative name, would be integrated into all browsers because it was going to be faster. So Firefox came out and they said, no, we're not going to do this, and they said, Dart's dead. And then Chrome came out when they decided not to do that. That was pretty major from, I guess, the perspective, but from my perspective, I thought it was the best thing to do. Because I didn't actually want the VM in the browser. It should concentrate on cross-compiling down to JavaScript and making that as optimized as humanly possible, because that's basically the one thing we're going to do. Then Angular 2 drops JavaScript. And basically in 2016, Dart can now make native apps, server apps, mobile apps, Internet of Things, and then 2016, basically Google announces its OS that's going to develop in front of everyone called Fuchsia, and it's basically going to be its new system that runs from Internet of Things devices into experiments all the way up to digital things. And Dart on top of that is actually a first-class citizen. I think it's even the first language that's supported straight out of it that you can run straight in the box. So what is Dart as a whole? It basically is a language, as everyone thinks it is. But when you actually get Dart, you actually get a whole lot of things, not just one thing. It's a collection of actions, and not until you start using it and understand how it works. So basically, it's a language. It's the SDK, which is all the core libraries that you get out of it. So that's like HTML, data, IO packages, HTTP packages. You get the virtual machine. That currently is used for servers, and it's built as a Guardian, so you can get runtime, fast compile, native data. There's a package manager, just like Node.js, but unlike Node.js, when you delete a package, it doesn't disappear. Guardian is the web browser that the VM is embedded into, so currently when we develop web applications, we run the Dart code natively in the web as the Dart browser. An observatory, that is a really cool piece of kit actually, trying to show you that. That allows you to real-time troubleshoot server applications. So for memory dump stats, isolates what's running in the back. This all just comes out of the box, so you can optimize your application, your server-side application instantaneously. You don't have to plug anything else into this. It comes with a built-in analyzer. So analyzer allows us to basically hint on the fly in real time. You can see that in IDE when I get into that. But this just comes with in Dart.js, which is the Dart compiler, so no Babel or tracer here, just automatic this. And the final thing that it actually ships with automatically is Dart docs, which is amazing. I love documentation, and I hate any projects that don't have documentation with such a passion. And the fact that Dart comes with a document packager, it's literally just one command line. You just type that, it automatically writes all the stuff that you need, it writes all the classes. You just do documentation. You don't have to plug it in. Oh, so because you guys are mainly mobile devs, figured that out very late in the game. Hey, what's happening? This is the Flutter stack, which is currently how it works. So everything I've talked about is in the Dart language SDK kind of system up in here. This is everything. So it's services, animation, painting, and rendering. And then you see the C shell down the bottom. Basically, that's where the Dart VM sits, and the Dart stack sits on top of that. It's sitting on that Mojo operating system. So panel at the moment. And I believe they dropped Mojo, didn't they? For something else. But that's the Flutter stack. So a modern web development stack. Who here is a web developer? One-ish, two-ish. Well, this is good. Okay, so the modern web stack. Basically, if I was going to set up an Angular 2 application or React application, I would need no password. Gold, because you need to move. So with that, just a quick anecdote. With that 11 developers, we were writing that much code and taking that fast, and it was such a long run. We literally had 2 developers full time running our tool chains. So developing our tool chains, keeping our tool chains up to date, making sure our tests are running fine. Because everything would change so quickly. It was just anyway. So down. Systems, Angular, Zone. So we haven't even run the application yet. Karma for the unit test, system builder. To build our application on top of the thing, we probably need browser sec because we want a whole lot of thing, and then we're going to chuck a bit of gulp TS lint in there because really we should have linting, which you don't get out of the box. Uglify because we really want to minify our code. We probably should have live stream our stuff. We probably need roll-ups so we can do tree shaking, which is the new thing these days in the web front end. I don't know why it's new, but apparently it's new. Tracer because all this is great, but it doesn't actually run in any browser, so we need to cross-compile it down. Or Babel, it would be in your spot here, although I'm against Babel. Have you ever seen that thing about what's in your node packages? So Babel ships with, as part of your thing, a massive image embedded into their stack, which is good times. And also it uses Glimmer, and Glimmer includes the whole Britannica, the English dictionary, just so it can get the definition quickly. Honestly, it's ridiculous. So anyway, so that's that. And so if I was going to do the same Angular 2 setup in Dart, I would basically install Dart, return everything we saw. I would put in a testing framework, surprising, called testing. And then I would plug in Angular 2. And out of that, I will get all the following. So I get strong typing, like the TypeScript. I can instantly connect to TCP UDP, so if I'm on a server, I can do HTTPS. I can connect and serve WebSockets without doing anything. I have got testing frameworks built in. I have got internationalization. That is an extra plugin, but it's basically led by Google. It's the #1 framework. All the Angular frameworks will be basing their applications off this framework. Isolates, amazing. So we can basically run parallel. DOM selectors, so pretty much they included like a cut down jQuery, so we can just run exactly as you would naturally out of box, just select stuff out of DOMs, HTTP requests, web apps, so I can create streams, streams. So streams are amazing. Streams would be, they are basically like RxJS. That's quite interesting. When I saw RxJS, I was like, oh, there's just streams. I've had it for years. What's so amazing about this thing? But apparently it's amazing. So, great. But anyway, that's what you would do with the standard projects. We get built-in analysts, we can read and write files, we get standard file API. So an anecdote about that. So because Dart is an abstracted level on top of this, I've got my application for file candidates. It's sending 1 to 10 gig files that basically around. So I cut and slice on API. Now if I was going to use the browser API, Firefox recently changed their browser API. The Safari shifted theirs and Firefox shifted theirs back to what original. So if you're going to do like a file slice, a new file API, you have to kind of know that what file. So you've got to do all these detections like this function is this, do this. This function is this, do that. And Dart, I just go file slice behind the scenes, just handles it all for me. And as things progress, it just keeps on doing it. I can build mobile applications, I can Pole.js, mainline applications, and #1 thing, it tree shakes. Not only does it tree shake my code, it tree shakes all the libraries I include, all the core libraries that it runs on, to basically be the most optimized run. And you don't have to do anything. That just comes out of the box. We haven't even plugged anything else in yet. So, just on that, so that was just about the streams. So this is from the actual people that make the replication themselves. So again, when I saw the Dart and this new way of doing things, I just thought I had been doing this for years, and that was quite interesting that it's a different way. Because again, Flash, we've been doing that for years because that's the way you did things. So it was just interesting that this kind of came along, just an anecdote to show, because everyone takes on. Dart, I suppose, I find when I talk about it. But it's not all roses though. So the first thing we don't really have is because we run built-in servers, we don't currently have hot loading. As you can see, it's very web-based. JS interop needs work, so that's just for using external JavaScript libraries. And if I want to make another library that was used by some other project, it doesn't really work. But those are currently all in progress and currently will be resolved in the next 4 months. And the other thing that we would like, I guess, is more packages, but that only happens if we're using it. But then in saying that, the flip side is Google was pouring an absolute shit ton of resources into it. Bad language, but that's true. They run massive teams, and it's currently Dart. It's used everywhere. So it's used in a lot of places that you don't even know it's actually used. So the whole of AdWords is now run through Dart, which is quite impressive because that's Google's money maker. You know, that's the thing that makes them. That's their business critical system. That thing goes down, they make money. Well, thank you. Mandrill, which was part of, I guess, Golden, but that was actually built in Dart as well. So Mandrill is the transaction processing, the email client thing, that was actually in Dart, believe it or not. Netflix, security monkey. So Netflix runs Dart application to monitor all their AWS services, and particularly around security changes and some kind of purposes. AdWords video, which is latest products. Reason English, it's completely Dart driven from where to go, so Google's whole internal CRM tool that runs throughout the whole business. So they ripped out the whole business and built a new data one. Easy Insurer is one of the biggest insurance websites in the world. That's off the charts. How much traffic they take. Right is another content management system that's used by all the advertising companies to basically secure all their content. Google Fiber, or Google Fiber. My sweet ass application. So yeah, it's a heavy hitter, sure. In actual fact, it's actually half and half at the moment because I'm transitioning it out. It's actually half Angular 1, which I kick. When I build it in a JavaScript, AS1, AS6, JSPN, and I wish I did that. It took me twice as long, and now I'm going to slowly rip it out. And also the AdSense performance platform reports. So AdSense has started to transition over to that as well. Oh, demo. Exciting. Okay, so can everyone see nothing? Perfect. Let me just get some zoom on this. Perfect. So I learned something new. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to create a new Angular 2 project and get it going and build a release build in, I don't know, a minute, maybe two. So we're going to create a new project. We're going to choose a Dart application. Previously, you would have to install the Dart SDK. So I've already done that earlier. So I'm going to choose my Dart SDK. I'm going to wait for basically my project templates to load. It's totally streaming. So my demonstration is hung at the first place, I swear. But the interesting thing out of here is you can create a console. I just can like a simple console application, more a Dart package, which is a library, a sharp web server application. Basically, it looks like Express and Node. Angular 2 app and a Polymer web application, which is a Dart fork of the Polymer framework, which I love. I love web components. Good app feature. Okay, so conversation for another day. So we're going to do that. I'm going to call it amazing. Finish. So I'm going to do my little picture thing here. So Google Files, yeah, here it is. Okay, so that's HTML, amazing. So the makeup of a Dart application consists of this. No, it can't. So I'll try and highlight these things. There's a library which all your files sit in. It's nice because it instantly makes your whole project a library accessible to the application. And then the web, which is the entry points. Like Node, or Gradle, there's a package manager. So this is the dependencies of the application. So we've got Angular, browser, Dart transform, Angular 2. And we're just going to get these dependencies. So it's going to speak to here, it's going to speak to pub, which is the dependency manager. I guess that's claiming the Dart thing. Pub or something. So resolving dependencies. Okay, this is real fast. So my minute time's over. Right, I'm going home. What is it? This is working. Cool, so that's us done. And so now what we can do is we can just go out, because this is I use this up as a Dart project, I can just debug this. It's still in transformers, it's building it. Analyzers kick in. And you can see it's running in Chromium, which is effective. They call it Dardium. It's basically your own build of Chrome without the play. So it's loading it up, it's compiling it. And also, once it's compiled one, as you change it, it loads out of cache. So that's my first Angular 2 application. Now, if I was going to create a build and a normal build stuff, I'd have to create a build script. Admittedly, the Angular CLI is getting a bit better. But the thing is with Dart, you can use any application. So I'm just going to go build, release, and I'm done. Time to go home. And that will minify, tree shake, compile, run, and it's basically deploy the application. It'll put it into a build folder at the top. And because Dart team are fully integrated with WebStorm ID, you can see it on there. It has marked my projects as excluded. These folders. So whenever it comes through, so it's the build. I've got an index HTML file, and now this is completely built, so I can just run this in Chrome. It'll be the same application. No build scripts, no things. There are some cool features about Dart which I like. So, for example, with this project, they had SAS. Normally, we'd have to add a compiler, a gulp thing, we'd have to run a whole lot of scripts. So, what we're going to do, I'm just going to add this SAS, and then just any, basically, and the transformers. The transformer. The transformers are effectively telling the Dart application that when it goes through, as it's compiling, run these libraries against my code. So it's going to go through like that. So the main thing I'm going to do in here, we've got a component.css file. Don't need to change the HTML. This component is already in here. Cool. So it's done, and so because we've got those dependencies, that's how we need to get the SAS builder. You also need to have SAS installed on the machine, but I don't even know it's SAS. All the other dependencies for the run. And so in the meantime, so let's just make sure this is working. I just rebuild it. Well, really, I would come. So there you go. So now we've added SAS to a whole application, and then now it's like basically flat. And now that will also build. So if I build that, it will make compile CSS included in the file, chuck it in the hole. So there's a couple cool language features I just want to highlight. So because this is Angular, we're going to create this. Now, because it's a strongly typed language, we get full code editing throughout the whole application. It encourages you to refactor. So it encourages you, so in like your standard JavaScript run, you kind of have to commit to a part. It encourages you to rename and refactor. For renaming this file, it will automatically go out, find and shuffle it, just as you would have seen in JavaScript. TypeScript can be better, but it's still not as possible. So this is what I do. Done. So that's import. So I don't have to do anything special to get my imports to work. We'll just handle it. Pinch and zoom. Yeah. Shit. That's better. Now I can see it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Got that. So it's straight class. So and we get because it's Angular, we're going to make the injectable, so it's an injectable service. And great, let's get into that. So it's got, so talking about language, so these are return types, so currently it's saying void, so I don't want to return anything other than this. So it's not going to do anything, but if I just say I want a string or something like that, tell me that I haven't returned anything. At the same time, you can see that basically as I'm writing here in real time, this is the analyzer down here. This is what I was talking about before. You can add any type of rules that you want for it, and it's happening in real time. So it's really nice for when you're coding. So it also links, it checks your code, it checks the types, it runs, I guess, through the whole application and checks all the types of passes and stuff. Encourages you to use proper value objects and all that kind of stuff faster because you get code with them wherever you go. So and you don't have to. You can leave, take and leave. So let's just import something here. And because it's a library, I don't actually have to reference relative paths because I've made this demo fun. Now it's accessible everywhere. Which is what I can do in this picture. And so yeah. And because again, everything is coding, even annotations are fully programmed. So it makes programming really easy because you can just see what you're kind of like passing into it. So there's my demo service, so we can pass that in. Now there's a couple of nice language features that I'll just highlight here. So this is a component, it's got no constructor. So if I want to pass and use this demo service, it's now which demo service. Now by putting an underscore straight underneath that, it automatically makes this a private function. I don't put private anything with an underscore in front of it. It's a private function, private variables, done. So if I then look at this from, so when I pick up a library off a person, I can just show private and public service. So let's just make this work. That's all about making things concise. So we've got a undefined variable. And you can tell me that basically that isn't used and it should be used somewhere. So in the constructor, because I don't know how much you guys know about Angular 2, basically Angular 2 dependency injection kind of stuff. Normally you would do something like this. And in JavaScript, probably not type it, but touch the service. So we're going to pass this to this thing, and we'll go demo service equals demo service, and then I would go demo service dot get done. But I don't have to do anything about that. And Dart, what I can do is I can just skip basically all of it, apart from the core if I want to do that. This way. And so automatically it's going to inject the right variable, it's going to find the right service for me, inject it because it knows what type it's got, and then assign it to that variable. But it still knows that I haven't actually used this variable. So now everything is super nice, and I like it. So reduce my code, it's easier to read, and also because we're fully class, we can do like implements on it. Override. So you don't have to do this, but I like to do this for annotations. Let's see, I'm going to override the on function. You can see it's implementing, and it's coming down here. It says that there's an expected class member. So it's just standard stuff that you would expect to see in Java that you guys, I guess, will see every day in your actual coding environment. Because I'm a new developer, I know it's something amazing to me. So, thank you. Cool. So that's it. I guess the other main language feature. I was going to go through setting up features and streams, but we'll talk about that because it's hard enough. So the nice feature. So if we're going to make an HTTP request, and so the other thing about that is that you only get what you need. So for this class, I've only got Angular 2, but I want to make it HTTP request. So I'm going to import a core library package with so that's the core HTML. So now I can create DOM elements. I don't really have a need for React anymore with that library. And streams and services. Basically, I can do everything React does just by having that library and streams and async as well. So, what we can do is, so if I've got an HTTP service, and so what you normally do in language is, and then you go, wow, I want to do something so good. Open, call. And you notice I haven't included any other libraries, so if you're doing React, you have to include like Fetch or something else to make it take this course. And it's going to be, I don't know, URL, some amazing thing. And then the next thing is I'm going to add a list now, so request, open, load, something. And I'm going to go request, send. So that's what we'd do. Normally we'd have a future that would return out, or we might run a stream that has an observable payment. But the point is that looks a bit nasty to me, considering that I could do this. So if you instantiate a new function, double dot. So it's just like nice language syntax that makes things super easy to read, and it's all code hinted just as you would expect. And you can keep on going. So, for example, if you're setting a whole lot of properties as you create something, you can automatically just assign it. It just reduces a lot of boilerplate and a lot of things like that. I was going to get into streams and futures, but we'll talk about them later on. We can have a chat. Basically, futures quickly in Dart are basically if you can take all the async libraries that exist and you put them into one, that's futures. It can do await, async, synchronous. You can mix and match them together. Off the top of that, you've got streams. So streams are basically event broadcasting. So you can, as a future returns, you can put into a stream. That means everything that's listening to that stream, then they can listen to it. It can have broadcast streams, so it automatically does it, or it can have single listening streams, so nothing else can sign up to that stream if something else is listening to it. It's got a whole lot of really, really, really nice features that you always really, really want as a developer, but you kind of can't have that easily in front-end world. So that's that. Particularly the front end world stuff. So we've created an Angular 2 application. We can now build production ready code. We haven't built any build scripts. We haven't done anything else to make this thing work, and it's ready to go out of the box. And that's just it's really easy to read. I don't know if you've been noticing. I feel like it's probably one of the easier languages I've had to learn in a long time. And I find even when I get people into my projects who've never done a line of Dart, within, I don't know, maybe a day or two, that's basically fully up to speed. The documentation is amazing. That's because, again, documentation is so easy, because it encourages you to use the document as you go along. So that's that really. I was going to quickly show you a Flutter application. Basically, build a prototype of the app that you're going to show, but my one's not running. Okay, so anyway, okay, yeah, cool. But basically, just quickly looking at that, there's nothing here that you haven't seen before, but now it will compile and run natively in iOS and run natively in Android. So I can use my same language base, I can create my same libraries, I can now share validation between my desktop application and my server application. So my browser application, my mobile and my server application, they can all use the same validation library. So now we're just consolidating code bases, reducing tuning, reducing service. So maybe that's pretty well done out. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I guess hey you guys, oh. So basically, that. I love documentation. I hate picking up projects that have no documentation. 11 devs, no documentation. Especially when they're all creating different libraries, you're running a different sync, or you're picking up someone else's library. I love stability. Dart provides me stability. I was going to show you that. Basically, since I started using it, the APIs haven't really changed. They've got added some complexity, they've reduced something, but relatively speaking, it's still the same code base that I had previously. I love static typing. Static typing is your thing. I will argue any one of you about that if you don't like static typing. Again, just because I come from running, I'm running the smallest that I've run at the moment, and I'm working with people, and I work with that little people, I don't know how many years. And static typing, when you pick someone else's code, I like coding and I hate tool chains. That's probably my biggest gripe about the Angular JavaScript world is the amount of time you get to maintaining the tool chain and keeping it up to date, keeping it running. Even when it's not your fault, you just pick up an old project and some dependency is gone missing. Again, we don't care about hints on how to questions.
I was going to ask a question not directly related to Dart, but do you know anything about reassembly? Yes,
Yep, know a little bit about reassembly because so stuff I do outside of this is lots of creative coding. So I think it's a future. I actually think that's what it's going to be. I think Dart is in a good place for that because it can run the I'd like to see what it does at the moment from the web space, but from my perspective, I want it to be there, and Open Frameworks can now do that. So I really don't ask for a table, I just ask them. I should be a politician.
This thing in the wall, something like that as well.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I did when basically it was milestone 3 when so I just came back from Google I just come back from Google it's definitely come on. Definitely. I think it's interesting how much money and investment is going into it, considering it's been big so many times, and yet we're still trying on and basically giving going to guess that job comes to it. But yeah, and it's going everywhere, and and it's becoming like so. What's happening is I'm finding is that because I'm so deep into it, so I used to meet with the Dart team every week. And what's actually happening is big enterprises are starting to pick it up more than web developers. Web developers are hating on it, but the big enterprise financial institutions are starting to pick up just for stability, international availability, and for like long running code bases. And I went through Angular 2, so when Angular 2 was being developed, I was working so and I just had so much pain in my TypeScript project from release 1 to release 2. Then release 4 and 5, they just changed everything. They just flip a nightmare. But the Dart team, my Dart projects that were Angular 2, I just went, we were down for weeks trying to put it together. So the thing is Dart, from my perspective, Dart. So web development in Dart. When I was looking at when we came back from Google I/O, it probably wasn't. It was at a stage to play with. Probably in the last Angular 2 coming on board and Dart Polymer starting to ramp up. It's only in the last 6 months really become a viable, what I would consider a viable option to put into a client operating system. I built some stuff for the BNG with it already, but yeah, it's only now, I guess, at a point where it's considered it's accepted. It runs in Angular 2, it's the framework of choice. You don't need to run that because it's got enough tools in it. You don't need to do it. Like I say, if I have to do a React or single page application and it has to be modern browser ES6 stuff, I personally would never choose TypeScript or JavaScript unless I have to, which is To be honest with you, I never really use those applications and I don't really know. And to be honest with you, I would be looking at Flutter. But I mean, Flutter's only tech preview, so don't like. We'll make production applications. Yeah. So I mean, for me, and the cool thing is, it's the same code that runs on the server, and it's fast, and it's got fast alerts and stuff. It's got all the nice things that you kind of want in a language. Because Google's doing the Google engineering it themselves. I think you can comment on it, but really, we just make all our learnings that we have doing everything that we talk about. And by the way, that's all this mic.
Right, so I heard about Flutter at I/O. Well, actually only because Liam, who mentioned it when we were there, he's like, oh, this is where he started with. So I don't really know anything about it, to be honest. Not very much. But we had a little look at the code tutorial. What are they called? Code labs. So they're code labs. I highly recommend looking at those. Oh, okay. Well, I haven't looked at it since I. But yeah, it was pretty. It's kind of interesting. This is a very shallow look. I don't know anything. This is for a person who doesn't know anything, but I spent like a number of hours looking at it. And as an Android developer, so like, hey, Android developer, how can I make this stuff work? So what is it? It's a framework for, as far as I'm concerned, for building mobile applications. It's got high performance though. And it's sorry, I sort of say that it's probably back to front. It's cross-platform, but hey, it's high performance, which is not always that often, I think. it's kind of got this single code base. I put single in quotes there because there are a few different bits and pieces, but it's basically a single and languages Dart. So in terms of tools, to get started, you're going to need, well, you want some kind of, again, use quotes IDE. And the Atom is the one that, there's basically Atom and IntelliJ are the two core ones that they recommend when you install. We'll get things, we'll go through the getting started and install bits and pieces. With Atom, that's all kind of good to go. It seems to be the tool of choice. IntelliJ has got a pre-alpha plugin called Flutter IntelliJ, and it says literally, kind of keep coming back and will be ready soon. It's in the documentation, which didn't give me a lot of confidence in it, so I actually didn't even try it out. I didn't have time. But I just tried the Atom one, which was fine. It was really good. In fact, it was pretty good. And yeah, the environments that are supported are Mac OS and Linux, and apparently Windows is coming. Those who are on Windows, so that's a little bit of a thing. But you could just install a Linux virtual machine or whatever on your Windows machine. Yeah, you'd be good to go. Documentation is amazing. I don't think I've ever come across something that has been so well documented, as far as I could tell. Anyway. And it's probably it's definitely all you need to get going. It's got this sort of setup, how to get everything installed on your machine. It has got, it points to Bootstrap for Dart. So that's actually not Flutter, but it's how to kind of get going with the language. And it was really good. It had some, I'm completely new to Dart, so I don't know anything about it. And I don't come from a web background. So it's kind of, I highly recommend looking at that as well. It didn't take long, and all the stuff that they tell you, they don't go into sort of the stuff that you don't need to know. They just tell you what you need to know, which is great. Like, it's really, really effective documentation, that Bootstrap, which is cool.
You'll find all the every thing that you pick up. It's just amazing.
It seems like it's just what you need. I don't know, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're reading stuff and you're like, I don't really know all this, and like, just get me to the good stuff. But it feels like everything that you're reading is the good stuff. If you know what I mean. I'm just a bit impatient, I guess. The Flutter, and then there's the Flutter framework, which talks about these things like widgets, containers, gestures, animations, and a whole bunch of other things. And that's pretty handy to give you kind of like, especially if you're coming from with sort of preconceived ideas like I had, things like, it's constraint layout now, but relative layouts and frame layouts and all those sorts of things, and different widgets like text views and so on. It's pretty good. It's just helps you understand what the kind of things are that they don't give you Android examples, but you can kind of figure out what they're talking about and what the kinds of things that you'd use. There are example applications, which is always useful, so you can go and have a look at those. It just would skip GitHub ones. But there's also sections on the kinds of things that are important, like adding assets to your application. They've got the same concepts of DPI, displaying things with assets, and handing input, also known as handling input, and I/O. They also take you through how to debug. So kind of like, that's like, what more do you need, right, to get started for a basic application? I think it's pretty good. That's the very basic. Let's sort of take a look. What I thought I'd do is show you. No. Let me just think about this. Hang on, it's got a. Oh, here we go. I guess so. I think I can just do this sort of thing. Whoa. There we go. Anyway. No, sorry, but it's got on the left there are basically a bunch of different bits and pieces. Actually, let me just see if I can find. Oh no, wait, maybe I have it here. Yes. Wow, look at this. Okay, let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, so I actually kept this because I thought, you might be interested in it, but what is involved in kind of getting started? You download the SDK. There's a thing called, basically you pull down a repository first, and then you run this thing called Flutter Doctor, which is really awesome because it goes and figures out all the sort of stuff that you need and what you don't have and bits and pieces. It took a little while. You can see the times there to pull some things down, but after it's pulled everything down, it kind of has a look at what you've got and goes, well, okay, I can see that you've got generally the right environment. You've got the Android stuff built in there. That's nice. Don't have any iOS stuff, so that's going to hold you back. It's you haven't got any IDE support, so I hadn't pulled down Atom at this stage, or the IntelliJ part I didn't quite get because I do actually have IntelliJ installed, but anyway, and I didn't have anything connected, so I was like, oh, okay. I went away, did some stuff, and then ran it again. Anyway, okay, and then it basically you can go and create an application. So here I went and created the Flutter create countdown. I had to think about what I was going to call it. And it wrote some files, pulled down some stuff using that pub thing, I guess, which we just learned about. I didn't know that that's what that was. You can see at this point, it said, hey, you've got Atom installed. That's good. And I think I might have even had a device plugged in at this point. And then I went into my application, which I had just created, and called run. And as mentioned by Paul, everything's in this lib folder, which was, for me, it was a little confusing because I wasn't like, I was just like, okay, do follow the instructions. But that was kind of interesting because I felt like I expected it to be like in an SRC folder, a source folder, rather than an IB folder. It's fine. I tried it and it was like, hey, you've got anything plugged in? And it's like, hey, you do have something plugged in. Let's build it and see what happens. So we got that into that, and it was up and running pretty quickly. It's got some interesting things like there was little R to do a hot reload and then R to do a restart, which I thought was kind of interesting. And you could look at the widget hierarchy, which is like the view hierarchy. And I didn't involve it in the tree. So so that was pretty much it in terms of up and running. So this is me doing it all over. Yeah. But I sort of thought like, hey, that's kind of gives you a bit of an idea of it going. Once you're inside the application though, once you're inside, Atom, it actually installs some bits and pieces. It basically tells you to install some, whether plugins are the right word. I'm just going to use that word anyway. For handling connecting to devices and things. As you saw, it just popped up then. Hey, you just plugged in your device, which I did just do. And you can do things like go, hey, let's run this thing. Anyway, here it's trying to run it. Anyway, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's basically syncing the files to the device. It says on, it's already on there. But this is kind of nice. It gives you the basic demo gives you a stateful widget. Like it stores something that's going to store some state. So when you press this button, it just increments a number and the rotation and that sort of junk through, which is good. So let's have a little look at. So I guess the thing is that this Atom thing has got a lot of the bits and pieces you'd want to get started in terms of deploying to the device, seeing what's going on in terms of some logging. There's debugging. I didn't get as far as debugging. But debugging is like it's like it or not, like it's kind of like, well, I don't know. Okay, maybe you guys don't have this problem, but I spend a lot of time debugging when things aren't quite working out the way I expected, right? So the other thing is they have there's this thing like material. Basically, my kind of conclusion was that it's kind of designed and set up for you to write material apps. That's what they're focusing on. So if you were to a lot of the bits and pieces, widgets and so on, you can build them. Write your own, I should say. And if you do, then you have to kind of make these build functions that you have to override the build functions and then make them define how they're all going to work and look and all that sort of stuff. But if you use the material library, or make material application, which gives you the right kind of theming for widgets and bits and pieces, you kind of get a lot of that stuff for free, which is, I think, it's the only viable way. I mean, as far as I know, that you do it. Let's start off at least doing that. That's not such a bad thing because kind of most people, well, I'd like to think most people are using material design as at least a basis for what they're building these days in the world of Android. Anyway, I don't really know enough about how well it would play on how well material plays on iOS, but from a lot of designers who do iOS stuff, they talk fondly about material design. So yeah, you can create these things. You can have widgets that are stateful or not stateful, and basically whether they store state or not. And this is I'm just showing the code. This is what it looks like. So here's an app bar. It's got a title. I actually added this thing called leading, which is a nav icon, and it's got all the nice command completion stuff, of course. But I actually was quite kind of taken by some of this neat stuff. Like it's got but see, it's got all the nice icon stuff on the left there. So as you're searching, it was kind of nice. So you get access to all of those material icons, which is kind of neat. And so yeah, so I just added that myself, and up came a menu icon. So it's kind of like a lot of stuff is easy. However, that's kind of it. I mean, as far as I can tell, and I know like that's because I haven't come from what sounds like a seriously savage world of front-end development, where in Android we're used to like these incredible tools. And there's a really good podcast that was recently again recommended by Liam. Recommended it. I think it was the Android Best Manager. Anyway, it's like the chat house, and it has tools guide. Is it tool? Yeah, and it also had this time they had their guest was Ficus, Patrick, I think his name, something like that. So he's the guy who wrote Volley, for better or for worse, and he was in the original Android team that was bought by Google, and he worked in a number of other really interesting, and they just talked to him about a whole lot of stuff. But I highly recommend it because there was some very interesting, pragmatic things that came out of that. And one of the things they said was, sort of history has sort of taught us that if you've got a whole lot of, if something's not that great, let's say with Java's not that, I mean, it's great, I like it, but not everybody likes it, and I get that, and that's cool. There's lots of stuff that's not great about it. If there's something that's not great, people will put up with it if the tools are so good that they overcome some of these things. So we're used to having at least a preview of what we're building in XML for our stuff. Now, I don't know whether that exists. I haven't got that far yet with this, but I suspect it doesn't. And that may be something that is going to come. But there's so much time and effort currently still going into the Android tools that it would be so expensive for me to build just a simple layout off the top of my head for Android. I'm not saying don't do this. I'm saying that I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's performant, which is the main thing. It's also got the backing of Google, so you're going to have people that you can go to say, "Hey, I've got this problem. Help me solve it." Right? They're not going to go, "Oh, you've done something in JavaScript which I don't get," or something like that. They're like, "Oh, this is Dart. We're the Flutter team. We'll help you with this. With this problem." There may be some bits and pieces that are not currently available. Like I don't know how GCM works. Maybe that's all. Maybe be already there. I don't know. But that was the thing about that. There were a number of really cool, interesting stories in that podcast, that Android Backstage one. But the thing that hit me while I was partway through, I was listening to it partly while I was doing this, and the thing was like, well, there's I don't know how many years of work that's been put into the tools in Android, and we take so much stuff for granted in that. that's not here. And so my kind of thing is like, I definitely look at it. I think like you said, for production, like we're not, but it might be really interesting to hack a few things together and see what it can do. And it's lots of fun. And the language is it's interesting, and it's so well documented, which makes it so much faster to learn. So yeah, I think that was kind of all I was going to go through. There's like a few directories for assets and things like that. You've still got your manifests in. So you've still got this thing going on here, which will seem very familiar. But again, I don't know how stuff goes in terms of flavors, for example. Like, I don't even know how flavors or dimensions or whatever you're using would work. So that's the kind of thing which, once you could probably build something really simple, but as soon as you start getting into that sort of stuff, it might be a little bit tricky. So yeah, but it's it's very accessible to get up and running and started. So yeah, I'd highly recommend people to definitely have a look at it, because it could well be something that is, as you say, you started 2013 or something, Dart, 12, whatever. Yeah, 12, we're doing a Dart, and then a few years later, suddenly, like, if they're pouring resources into it, it's weird that the Flutter team exists if it's not potentially going to be something that they're going to use themselves. Yeah, so that's it, really. It wasn't meant to be that long.
No, screen fix.
Alright, it's getting a bit late, so let's we just blaze through the news.
Blaze. Ooh, that's a sign of things to come.
Good call. Alright, let's start off with announcements. As usual, does anyone have any projects that they're working on? Any people looking for jobs or partners? I mean, not that kind of partner. Although if you're into that,
Have another beer.
yeah.
This is not that section.
Cool. We good. All right. As usual, if you're learning something new, or you're experienced in any sort of Google-related field, and feel like doing a presentation, it's a great experience. Well worth it. Come take and talk to us.
Yeah, even if you're just like interested in something and you like do what I did, I spent like 4 hours or something. It took me probably longer to do this crap presentation than to actually do that. But you can just give some ideas about stuff, show some code, whatever.
Sweet. All right, moving along. September-ish news. So, straight into it. I'm sure you've all heard this Note 7 has been in the news a lot over the past sort of 2-3 weeks. Good news. Well, good news for some, I suppose. So there was an initial recall. I'm sure you've all heard about the battery and fire issues that it's gone through. There was a massive recall. The replacement devices started going out a couple of weeks ago, and since then there have been, I think, at least 15, if not 20, of the recalled devices catching fire. So
The new ones.
the replacements have caught fire. Yeah. So Samsung has today announced that they're halting all production and sales, and doing a complete recall on all devices, with no indication as to whether they're going to release it at a future date. And the speculation is currently that that is the end of the Note 7 and potentially the end of the entire Note line. Well,
Is it just because of the battery? And
the
it's
current
not the whole.
the current estimates are that this whole issue has cost Samsung somewhere between $10 and $20 billion. And in addition to that, there is losses on their share price of estimated about 8%, which is just mind-blowing numbers. So we'll see what happens with that. Just to give you an idea, it's just been absolutely plastered everywhere in the news. So this has been really bad news for Samsung, but it's been really great news for other manufacturers who have been struggling a lot to sort of get their devices out there. We'll see. There have been a bunch of other, true, slightly unrelated, but it happens to all devices. Any device that you get has some chance of catching fire. It's just the frequency at which it's occurring. On happier news, it was Android's 8th birthday on the 23rd of September. We've come a long way. In every aspect, not just the hardware, which is kind of obvious there, but the software has changed a lot. The operating system has matured incredibly. It's gone through so many different revisions. Not only the ice cream sandwich overhaul, but the material design overhaul as well. And it's grown beyond any expectation. So let's see what the future brings. While we're on the topic of birthdays, it's also Google's birthday. I don't have the date there, but it was Google's birthday in September. Is it 16 or 18? No, it's what's the 18? Yeah, I think it's 2008. Sorry, 1998. So happy birthday, Google.
Okay, Google. What's your birthday?
So also not that much of a difference, but yeah, definitely come a long way. So as I mentioned, Allo was released. If you haven't downloaded it, definitely check it out. There's some really interesting features in the app. It's fully featured, except it doesn't have video and it doesn't have SMS, which are two things that a lot of people have complained about. But on the topic of SMS, Google are releasing, they've announced, but they haven't made it available, a Google Play Services API, which will allow any third-party developer to create a messaging app and to message people natively on their Android device and presumably also iOS device, in such a way that they don't need to have your messaging app installed. You can just communicate with anyone that has a Google account, a Google account which is up to date, and a device that's up to date. And you can communicate with them with whatever messaging app you prefer. So this is potentially a starting point not only for the Google Assistant, but also for I don't want to say unified messaging platform, but certainly, yeah. There was an open messaging system. Yeah, I can't remember what it was called. No. Yeah, but the advantage, I believe, of this is that they don't rely on third-party developers to pick this up. Third-party developers can pick it up if they want to access this ecosystem, but it's already available in the operating system. So check it out.
You need to have a phone number, by the way, in order to use this application.
True.
So you can't do it like if you got a tablet. You can't just install it without having a cell phone.
And the way, like, the biggest hurdle that this application currently has is there aren't a lot of users. But if you're keen on using this application and playing around with the assistant, then you can always use niche communities like your family or your partner. I know I've kind of forced my partner into using it, but she's really enjoyed it as well. And we use it at work to sort of just, as like casual.
It's like a social, I guess you could say, side of work
Yeah.
application. So if we're not at work, we use this. Whereas if we're at work, we use that. But I've been using it with the family. It's been a lot of fun. The children love this app. So I guess it's just a little sticker, isn't it? You can resize emoji and stuff like that. That's the assistant. That's really interesting part.
Yeah. You can type at Google and you can refer to the assistant to like ask it questions, and as you can see, it'll provide suggestions as you type in. And
there's also you've kind of got different groups. Like you can talk to a group of people, you can talk to a single person, but there's also just the assistant. So there's like a channel that's just you and the assistant. I have been trying to teach it as much as possible about me, but which is interesting. And it goes, you can say like, "Oh, my wife's name is Judy," and you go, "Okay, I'll remember that." So I do all that, but the only downside is that, as usual, if you are a GApps user like I am, you are basically penalised for paying them money for their service. That is Google, paying Google, which is really annoys me because it goes, we need to have access to be able to see your photos. Please go and give us access. So you go and give it access, and it goes, okay, great. And ask if something goes, we need access to be able to do this thing, and you're just stuck in a loop. And it's a problem that they know about, but they haven't solved, and it's really, really annoying. It's a little bit like we've got now, it's called Music for Our Family. Like we basically got a Google Music service for our family, and it just doesn't work on business accounts, on GApps accounts. So I have to use my Gmail account, which is just old. That's all. I don't use it. I can't use my normal account, which I uploaded already all my music to, and I've got tons of playlists on. So just be aware of that. If you are trying to use it, you won't get everything out of the assistant that you could get if you're using it.
I have a quick question about this
Yeah.
app. Does anyone know how to change the Fahrenheit to degree Celsius? Like the weather thing?
It might be a Google account setting.
Already?
Yeah, maybe if you go into Google now,
Google now,
go into settings, try it.
No. I tried to do that. I tried to say, can you give me the degrees in Celsius? And he's like, Fahrenheit is something degrees. They gave me the formula.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to say is when you do install it, when you start a new conversation, you can see who in your address book has already installed it. So it kind of helps to sort of bring down that barrier. And nice. But as I said, as long as they have I think it's running Marshmallow or more recent, then you can message them directly without requiring them to install the app. So that's going to be rolling out to other versions of Android, and the API will be opened up later. But yeah, it's got an amazing backend that they've built around it. Right. Cheers. Rumors, because everyone loves rumors. The two major rumors were that, one major rumor, which didn't come true for the Made by Google event, is that Andromeda is the name of the merged operating system between Android and Chrome OS. So about a year ago, there was a massive rumor that Google were working on a merged operating system, and it's recently it was recently spotted the word Andromeda on some commit logs. On someone was doing some testing on some devices, particularly in Nexus 9, which is interesting. So that's come back out, and maybe next I/O we're going to be hearing about a new operating system. Be really interested to see what exactly they do. There's also a rumor about a Pixel 3 laptop potentially running this new operating system. So both things really interesting to keep an eye out for. The USB-C audio specification was announced, so we can all look forward to the day where there's no headphone jack, because that's what we all want, right? I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's great to have choice, right? It's quite possible that we're going to go into a future where headphone jacks aren't widespread, but that's just the reality of technology and manufacturers. There's a lot of people in the manufacturing or electronics industry that want you to buy a new set of headphones, so they're going to be pushing this technology very hard. Or a dongle, yeah. No, there's no money to be made in dongles. Also, a few weeks ago, there was an announcement that the Android Wear preview, actually, the major announcement was that Android Wear 2.0 would be pushed back to early 2017 release date. So that's, I guess, now something to look forward to in the future. But additionally, the Preview 3 has been announced with a bunch of really interesting features. Mainly, you will now be able to access the Play Store directly through your watch. So you can browse apps and install them directly on your watch, which is great because the whole idea behind our Android Wear 2.0 is the independence of the watch from the smartphone. Complication permissions, it's nice to have permissions. Inline actions for the cards. Wearable recycler view, because we all love recycler views. And there's also a Smart Reply API, which kind of gives you suggestions, much like the Allo app does. So all really fun stuff to look forward to. Additionally, today, Android 7.1 developer preview has been announced. It's not yet available, but it's really interesting to take a look at some of the features that they've announced with them. In particular, the App Shortcuts API, which I suppose conceptually is similar to the Force Touch on iOS. So apps will be able to define these shortcuts, which will effectively be intents into the application. But it's a nice way of getting your user to navigate into your app without having to first enter the app. So we'll see how that's implemented. Circular app icon support. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that, but it's there. Enhanced wallpaper, metadata, which sure. Image keyboard support. So recently Google released a Gboard or something like that. Google keyboard for iOS, and it had a whole bunch of really neat features, including image keyboard support. So it seems like this is how they're introducing it to Android, through a native feature set which other third-party developers can hook into. So that's, again, something to look forward to. Storage Intent Manager, yay. What's really also interesting about this is the preview will be available on, the 5X, 6P, and Nexus C, but it'll be also available on the Nexus 6. So it appears as though the Nexus 6 will get the 7.1 upgrade, even though it's outside of the 2-year upgrade window. Whether that means anything at all, or whether it's just an exception, we'll see. But hopefully it means that the Pixel devices will be supported for longer than the 2-year window. But don't quote me on that. It's just something that probably makes a lot of sense for Google to do. Yeah. So that's everything. Thanks to everyone for coming.
Is there anything anybody want to announce? No? Just say hi.
Yeah. Location. No.
It's weird. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, mine's in Celsius
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Mine's New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, my reason is New Zealand too.
It's not picking up.
Is it? Is it?
What kind of phone is it?
It's the iPhone.
Oh, that's right.
Oh wow.
I got the Android. So.